that's just occurring between Tyco Flow Control and Pentair. This is Bob McIlvaine of the McIlvaine Company, and we have a service entitled Air, Gas, Water, Fluid Treatment and Control Market, which analyzes all the companies and the potential in this very large $323 billion market. This merger, which just is occurring, is quite important because it brings the combined Tyco Pentair combined company to a leading position in this market space. Prior, as you can see in front of you here, Pentair was in fifth position, and now with all the valve revenues and so forth from Tyco, it generates pretty close to $4 billion in revenue in the segment as we've defined it. However, as you can see here with this next analysis, that of the total market, the combined company will still only have a 1.2% market share. So it's a very large market. The largest market share actually will be in the valves, and that's strictly due to Tyco, who's the number one valve supplier. Pentair has been in the 15, 17 ranking range in terms of pump suppliers, with about $500 million in sales. They own Fairbanks, Morrison, and several other significant pump companies. But nevertheless, their pump market share is less than 1%. But the valve industry, as you can see, is the biggest component of this whole marketplace of $323 billion, with $86 billion in sales. So 2% of that is pretty sizable. And even with that paltry percentage, it does vault Tyco Pentair to the top of the list, but just barely against Flowserve and some of these others that are. And of course, Flowserve is concentrated just in valves and pumps and isn't really into the treatment end of it. It isn't into this whole stack gas, which gets into compressors and these other rankings. Now, we can go into more detail on this, and as you can see, there are even fewer market leader positions as you get into actual products and product categories. So we, for instance, in sedimentation and centrifugation, track a whole bunch of different pieces of equipment, and the combined companies aren't in any of those, and they're into cross-flow membranes, but again, their market percentages in these areas are and sales are relatively small in terms of cartridges. It's only $300 million out of a $21 billion market, which is more than most of the rest of the areas there. So they're really only, and what's in green here is selling. So they're selling some wastewater treatment chemicals, but basically they're not a manufacturer of them in the combined company. The Tyco Goyen Group is very strong in supplying of valves for air pollution control equipment. So what shows up in the brown here is really components for equipment rather than the equipment itself. And what is in yellow is products that Tyco actually is selling now, and they have a minor role in the instrumentation of both air and water. So that again is a fraction of a percent of the sizes of those markets. So when you look at the market on an even more specific basis by product, there are lots of holes. And for instance, we're looking at fans and compressors. Neither one of the companies is in that. This is a $25 billion market, and Colfax just took advantage of the size of this market to marry it with their pump group when they purchased Howden. So they're a major player in this marketplace. The the things that we are pointing out in the report itself are that in addition to the people who are actually making and selling these components, there are a number of EPC contractors who make some of the equipment, but when it comes to many of the components, they're actually buying them and reselling them. So if you were to include all those companies, the market leaders, when you include the purchased items, would include people like Siemens and Hitachi, Mitsubishi, Doosan, and Babcock and Wilcox. And we, in the report itself, have displayed some of those. So here, for instance, is GE, and in yellow you're seeing what they furnish, and in the green what they're supplying through others. And in the case of the gray here, items that they no longer, that they've divested themselves of. And in this particular segment, we've taken some of those same numbers. These are the totals of $323 billion. And where are the areas that are booming in the red, where they're going to be a very high double-digit growth, growth that's slightly higher than GDP in the gray area and below GDP in the green. And there are reasons for all these different things, but there's a big market in the mobile for biological destruction, but that's actually in ship vessels. So that's a very attractive market. And the same thing for mobile and the scrubbers. There's going to be seawater scrubbing for taking out the fumes from the burning of this very dirty bunker fuel on the vessels. And those are multi-billion-dollar markets that are just developing. So this is a taste of what's in the report that's published by the McIlvaine Company, and you can learn more about it at www.McIlvaineCompany.com, and we will continue to be reporting on mergers such as the Tyco Pentair. Thanks for your time.